Where my girls at? Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's something serious. Where my girls at? We ain't linked up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going out tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going out tonight. Yeah, right. It's going out tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going out tonight. Yeah, right.
Where my girls at? Where my girls at? It's going down. It's going down on a thankful Thursday. You are listening to We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. The Superstation with the Force of Friendship. And I am your host, Crisette Ellis from the D. And I am excited to be here with you on today. And you know what? You know, the song says, where my girls at? Let me tell you, it's a first. It's a first. All my girls are gone. None of the girlfriends are here but me, myself, and I. So I really am singing that song, Where My Girls At, Where My Girls At. You know, they are on planes. They're in different places, other states. They have conferences that are going on. And so I'm the only one today holding it down on We Got Issues, but it's all good because I'm really excited about our guest that is going to be joining me in just a few minutes. So we're going to want you to lean into this conversation. We're talking about spiritual empowerment and understanding how to embrace change. Oh, come on, you guys know during this pandemic, we have had to learn how to shift. And you know the word I'm going to use, how to pivot in so many areas of our lives. And, you know, as a first lady of Greater Grace Temple, I totally have seen a shift and a change in the way that we are even doing our services. So many things change from the way that we did it before to the way that we're doing now. So are you a person that it's hard for you to change? Or are you one that can change on a dime? Sometimes people find it really, really hard to change. And then there are times where you're forced to change. And I'll just say, you know, with the pandemic, we were forced to change in so many ways. So we're going to have a great conversation on today. And so we absolutely want you to call somebody and tell them we got issues with the Force of Friendship is on today. Our guest is going to be Reverend Jessica Ingram, and I'll introduce her in just a few minutes. But we absolutely want you to join in the conversation. We would love to know, you know, what are some of the ways that you have had to change? You know, what, for those of you that attend church, are you attending now that things have opened up a little bit more? Have you become accustomed to watching your services via virtual platforms like Facebook or StreamYard? Or are you still old school and you're like, nope, going to church means getting up and being in the building. I got to go to the sanctuary. So what has changed for you? One of the things that I know for sure is that it is no longer a one size fits all. And you know, I'm so excited, even though my girlfriends are not here, I'm absolutely missing Gloria and missing Sabrina and Caterina. I'm telling you, holding it down by yourself is a little different. But you know, one of the things I always say, we are full of capacity. And so, you know, we're always, you know, putting ourselves in places to be stretched. And so I'm not afraid to do anything because I know that God has already equipped me to do whatever it is that I need to do. But I'm excited to see so many of you have joined on, those of you that are watching us via Facebook Live. Oh, yes, Carolyn Muse, I can always count on you. You know what? I think you may have 100% attendance, Carolyn. I don't know if you've missed any shows. So thank you, Carolyn, for being faithful and being a part of the Force of Friendship tribe. And then I see you, Carmen McDonald is chiming in, and Tanya Coates. Thank you. I need that. You guys say, hey, First Lady, I'm with you. So thank you so much for all of your comments and for joining on today. But I absolutely want you to call in with your comments or even with your questions. That number to call is 313-778-7600. Again, that's 313-778-7600. Okay, so I didn't get a chance today. Thank you. My sister Julia Davis from California is watching. She's here with me. I didn't get a chance, as I was saying, to watch a lot of news, but of course we know what's constantly in the news is Ukraine, what's going on there with the invasion of Russia. And we absolutely want to continue to keep them in our thoughts and to keep them in our prayers. You guys know just the other day, President Joe Biden and many of the other world leaders gathered in Brussels for an emergency summit to talk about, what they could do, what other sanctions they could place on Russia for, the atrocities that they are doing. And, finally, President Biden came out and called President Putin out and said he is guilty of war crimes. And so our hearts go out to the people of Ukraine, the children, and just so many innocent civilians that have been displaced. And so we absolutely want to continue to keep them lifted in our prayers. And, let me also say, it is so important that we pray. But after we pray, what can we do to get up to help them? And so there are many organizations that you can support, the Red Cross. And of course, you may be doing something at your home church. I know just this past Sunday, we raised quite a bit of money to send to pastors that we know that is right there in Ukraine, rolling up his sleeves and doing the work of the Lord, helping people get into Poland, into other areas of safety. And of course, they were talking about that there's food shortages. And so, sometimes we think the only way that we can help is we have to have a lot of money. And you may say, well, I need help myself. Well, let me just let you in on a secret. When you give, sometimes it doesn't have to be $100. Maybe all you have is $5. $5 can go a long way to someone with someone who has absolutely nothing. And I just know and totally believe that it is more of a blessing to give than it is to receive. And when you give, I promise you, I truly believe that God will always give back to us. I see my girlfriend is in town, Bridget Shaw. She is here, had a wonderful afternoon with her, a great lunch with her. And so I see you guys are watching live, and I'm sure those of you that are listening in to We Got Issues on today, so excited that you are joining me on today. And then the last thing that I want to say before we move into meet our guest is, I don't know how many of you were watching the confirmation hearing on yesterday with Judge Ketanji Jackson. Oh my goodness, I wanted to jump through my TV screen, but I have to remember it's important to have emotional intelligence, and you have to sit there when you're on the hot seat. And I'm telling you, I just watched her, answer those questions that were, thrown at her, and she wasn't even given a lot of time or really an opportunity to answer before they were throwing another question at her. But when I tell you she was cool, calm, and collected, yeah, there were times where, she had to pause. And, I said yesterday, there's power in the pause. And I mean, she really teaches us a great lesson of sometimes, you will find yourself in situations where, people are doing their best to get under your skin. And it's so easy to fly off at the handle. It's so easy to meet their respond to them the way that they are coming at you. And so she really did an amazing job under fire, showing us what grace looks like. And so I was so glad that Senator Cory Booker came to her defense and gave her those powerful words that God was with her. And so I just know that that was a God wink. I believe that, and I'll say that to let her know that she was not by herself. And so I'm believing that she is going to be confirmed as the first, the only African-American, the only Black woman to sit on the Supreme Court. And it's always the most difficult when you are the first, I guarantee you, if you ask individuals who were the first person of color to do anything, the road was not easy, but they paved the way for others to follow. And so we are thankful and grateful, even for the sacrifice that she had to make, just sitting there and enduring all that she did. So I am looking forward to her being confirmed. And at the end of the day, it will have been worth it all. So with that being said, I am so excited, you all, to bring to the stage my guest on today. She is an amazing woman, an amazing woman of faith who has meant so much to me. And there she is. And that is none other than Reverend Dr. Jessica Ingram. I am going to read you her bio in just a few minutes, but I have to just say that this awesome woman of God is such an amazing woman who has meant so much to me in my life. I can so remember, oh my God, it just seems like so many moons ago in 1996, March of 1996. Wow. And actually, March 19th of 1996, my beloved father-in-law passed, and my husband was thrust into the pastor to become the pastor of the church. And I know that I was not ready. I felt like I was not ready for that position, had so many questions. What do I do? How do I do? And Reverend Jessica was such a great friend of my father-in-law. He absolutely adored her, loved her. And my husband said, hey, why not, reach out to Reverend Jessica? She can definitely give you words of wisdom and kind of, help you navigate this new position. And I called her up and, I said, I would love to set up an appointment. And she was so gracious and invited me to her office. And literally we sat, we chatted, we talked. And I mean, I just connected immediately with her. And I can say down through the years of knowing her, and it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that we've been in each other's lives for over 20 years, over 25 years. And I have just gleaned so much from her, learned so much from her. And I know that I am who I am today and have been able to do some of the things that I have done at Greater Grace Temple because of her mentorship. And so I just absolutely adore her. Had to say that, but let me introduce her formally to you. Reverend Dr. Jessica Ingram, Kendall Ingram, served as the full-time assistant pastor of Oak Grove AME with her husband, Bishop Gregory G.M. Ingram, for 13 years. She became known for her ministry to women and was among the first to give women's convocations, you guys, in the city of Detroit. Yes, she is a Detroit native. She was committed to helping marginalized women and thus established the LIFT Women's Resource Center, designed to serve women recovering from substance and physical abuse. During its existence, the center served, listen to this, over 30,000 women. And then in 2000, her husband was elected as bishop in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. This elevation meant that they no longer served the local church and were signed to serve an Episcopal district. Since 2000, Reverend Jessica served as the Episcopal supervisor in the 15th District, South Africa, the 10th District, the state of Texas, and the 1st District, all of the Eastern Corridor states. She and her husband retired from those positions in July. Presently, she is the founder of the Ingram Difference. We're going to talk about that Spiritual Renewal Center. She is a trained spiritual director, and through the center is offering opportunities for persons to focus on their spiritual growth through her Friday morning prayer calls, individual spiritual direction, and spiritual formation webinars. And that is just a snippet of her bio. So I know you're behind the scenes. Kevin, give us a big round of applause and welcome Reverend Dr. Jessica Kendall Ingram to We Got Issues. Now, Reverend Jessica, we're getting ready to go to our first break. And when we come back from the break, I want you to just tell us a little bit more about your journey, where you started. Then we're going to talk a little bit about where you are today. You are listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. We're going to pay some bills and then we'll be right back. Our guest is Reverend Dr. Jessica Ingram Kendall. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. We are back. You are listening to We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation with the Force of Friendship. And I am so excited today to be talking with one of my mentors, Reverend Dr. Jessica Kendall Ingram. And prior to the break, I introduced her and talked about, who she is and all that she has meant in my life. And so now I'm going to ask her to just kind of talk about, her beginnings, where she is, and then we'll talk about the new that she is doing in her life right now. Welcome, Dr. Ingram.
Well, thank you, First Lady Crisette. I just want to say that I am just so thrilled to have this opportunity to share with you and your wonderful girlfriends that I just admire so much. Every time I see pictures of you and the other ones, I get just a little jealous. But no, seriously, this is just amazing. And let me say that the student should do better than the teacher. And I can truly say that if I was your teacher, you have certainly done much better than me. I have to go back to that day when you walked into Oak Grove AME Church. I didn't realize it was 1996. So it is really 25 years ago this month. Can you believe that?
No, it's hard to
25
believe.
years ago. I remember when Bishop Ellis died, we were all in such shock. And I remember you calling me, and I cannot forget how what I want to say, how good you looked when you came into church. I said, this is one clean sister, and you've been dressing ever since. But that was a meeting that was ordained by God. And I just feel so honored and privileged that God allowed me to have a little piece of what he poured into you, and to see how you have just grown so much. This position fits you so well. You are the first lady.
Thank you.
I mean, seriously, you don't know how much I admire you. I mean, it's like you just got it all, and you have such a wonderful perspective on life that is to be admired. Now, you asked me to go back to the beginning, but I don't think you know what you're asking. I'll be 75 in a few months, so I can't go back to the beginning. We'll be here.
We'll be here for a while. Well, I just want to just real quickly set the audience up so they know how you got started in ministry. And then I absolutely want to transition into, since the pandemic, how things have changed.
Absolutely. Well, I acknowledge the call. I actually went to seminary protesting that I was called to preach. I insisted that my calling was to Christian education. And the short version is, by the time I was getting ready to graduate from seminary, I went to Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evansville, Illinois. About the time that I was getting ready to graduate, I was pursuing a degree in religious education. I realized that God had called me to preach, and so I said yes to the call of God on my life. My husband and I, shortly after I graduated from seminary, got transferred to Detroit, Michigan, which was the best move that we could have made. When I tell you that Detroit, well, I know back in those days, we came here in 1987. Detroit is a Black church city. And I enjoyed the relationship that existed among the pastors and the spouses of the various churches. Among them, of course, your husband. Can I just say this? This is an aside. When Bill Clinton ran for president, I think it was his second time, he came to Detroit, and my husband couldn't make it, and so he sent me in instead. So we were all in this room, and President Clinton was really late getting there, and your husband was in the room, and I went over and I spoke to him. I said, "You look kind of familiar," but he said, "You don't know me now, but just watch out. You're gonna know me soon." Because he had just become that was prophetic, because I sure know him now. I never will forget that. But once we came to Detroit, God blessed us to come to a wonderful church. Oak Grove was just the very best. And there I served as the full-time assistant pastor for 13 years, and was able to pretty much do whatever God placed in my spirit. And much of it had to do with ministering to women. And as I said, we started giving women's convocations. People started coming from across the country. The last one we gave was in 2000, and you ministered at that convocation. I don't know if you remember or not. But you
Yes.
were, yeah.
I'm sure I was
your
shaking
class-
in my boots, shaking in my
Oh,
boots.
get out of here. That's hard to imagine. But you came to the last one that we had. And then in 2000, my husband got elected as a bishop in the AME church. Now, in our denomination, unlike PAW and Church of God in Christ and others, you can't pastor the local church and be a bishop. So much to my dismay, we had to leave Oak Grove and take on the responsibility of superintending these different districts. And so, as you just read, we served in South Africa for 4 years. I didn't move there. I went back and forth because my daughter was in high school at the time. So that was a very, very unique experience. God blessed me while I was in South Africa to have a women's convocation in Cape Town, South Africa, where over 900 over 900 people from the United States traveled to Cape Town for the International Women's Convocation, plus the women from the continent. It was an amazing, amazing week. And as a result of that, the funds that were received from that, I built the Balm and Gilead Center in South Africa, which was designed to serve impoverished women and children and persons with HIV/AIDS. And so we served there for 4 years and went to Texas. And again, in Texas, my focus was on women, and I established the project Hope. Do you remember that you came to Texas and you ministered there? You came to Houston. That was a part of women, the Project Hope. And so we served in Texas, and then we got transferred to the First Episcopal District, which is all of the East Coast. And again, my focus was on women. I established Project Hope, which was at every one of our annual conference. And so it has been an amazing journey serving in this position. It was not without its trials and not without its challenges. Let me just say quickly, my husband was never sick until he became a bishop. And since he's been a bishop, he was in a tragic accident in South Africa that left him almost without the ability to walk. He's had cancer twice. He's had a heart attack, eye surgery, and all that. But we are still here and still holding on. So in July of 2000, we retired from active service in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And that's when I've had to.
No, I was just going to say, I'm glad you went, down the history so that people could really understand that you've always had a heart for women. You've always, made sure that your conferences had a purpose. And I mean, that's what it's all about. And you have been a friend to so many. And so we want to, just kind of transition a little bit. And before we talk about what you're doing right now, one of the things that I want to make sure is part of the conversation, because as women, so many times when, our life takes a turn and goes into a direction that we didn't see coming, we didn't sign up for it, we never envisioned, or saw ourselves there. But God has a call, and God, I said, we made plans and God laughs like, okay, you can have your plans, but I'm taking you in a totally different direction. And so I just want to encourage, our listeners, and encourage those of you that are watching, that it is so important to search out and to reach out to mentors, to find women and men that are doing what you want to do at a higher level. And I want you to know there are individuals that are out there that love to invest their time and love to sow into your life. So I just want to feel led to say that someone might be in the middle of a transition and kind of, feeling like, oh my God, it's too much to handle. But I just want you to know that there are wonderful mentors, and mentorship is so important, and it's very impactful. So now, Reverend Jessica, of course, we know we got a couple minutes before we go to our next break, but I do want to talk a little bit about the pandemic and, all the changes and what, some of the things that transpired as far as in ministry with the pandemic. I know for Greater Grace Temple, so much changed when we had to shut down our church services. And, some people were able to shift and some people were able to change and start doing some things, but there were a lot that just felt like they were lost. And so we want to talk a little bit about that when we come back from break. And then I want you to talk about what you are doing now. So we're going to go ahead, take our break. And then when we come back, we want you to talk to us a little bit about the pandemic and what you are currently doing. You are listening to We Got Issues on 910 AM, the Superstation. I'm your host today, Crisette Ellis, and we'll be right back with our guest, Reverend Jessica Kendall Ingram, in just a few minutes. All right, we are back. We are back. You're listening to We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. The Superstation. I am your host, Crisette Ellis, and I am holding it down for the Force of Friendship on today. But I am so excited to be holding it down with my guest, the Reverend Dr. Jessica Kendall Ingram is here with us on today, and we're having such
Mhm.
powerful conversation. Reverend Jessica Carol Bowie is one of our followers, and she said the most fantabulous women's convocation ever was held in Cape Town. I was blessed to be present. So she was at that conference. So that's so awesome.
Right.
She is here on today watching and typing in the chat. And we're excited again to have you. So prior to the break, you told us about, how you got started in ministry and all of the fantastic things that you have been able to accomplish through women's ministry. So talk to us a little bit about the pandemic and, the transition and pivoting from what we were accustomed to, and then start to tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Okay, thank you. Um, I want to read to you from a book that I'm reading. Joan Chittister is one of my favorite writers, and I'm reading her book, The Way of the Cross. And it's a segue into what I want to say about the pandemic. So allow me just a couple of minutes to read this. It says, every journey through life is a deeply personal and forever unpredictable one. No two of us ever do it in quite the same way, except for one thing. However stable our circumstances, however solid our formation, however fortuitous both of our beginnings and our immediate circumstances, we are all at the mercy of change and beholden to the fragility of time. The bends and curves of personal experience move back and forth in seamless fashion between the startling luminous of life at one moment to the dark night of the soul at the next. On one day, life, it seems, is ambiguous. Everything has been settled once and for all. The job is secure. The marriage is firm. The house is in the right place. The future is assured. Nothing is too much for us. No clouds threaten the sense of achievement or compromise the flow of blessings we have come to expect. But then suddenly, on the next day, it all begins to disappear and nothing seems certain anymore. And for me, that describes what happened 2 years ago in the month of March with this pandemic. I can remember very clearly that on the third Sunday of March, I preached in New York City. And we had just started hearing about this virus. And we didn't
Right.
take it real serious. But that Monday morning was when the nation shut down. And we all know everything changed. Now, for my husband and myself, in the position in which we served, we were dealing with over 300 churches, 340, 350 churches, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, all those different places. And the way in which we connected with people was when we would come together for annual conferences, district meetings, and etc. All of a sudden, and we were getting ready to go into in the AME church what is called our annual conferences. So from March until the end of May, every year we have 7 annual conferences that last a week, and they're in 7 different geographic locations. So we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And this was to be our last year of serving in the AME church. We were to retire in July of 2020. And so after serving 20 years in the episcopacy, and we thought we were getting ready to retire, all of a sudden, we're faced with what? So the first thing we did was to call the district together through conference calls. So we having these conference calls and trying to do all this planning, etc. And one of the pastors said to me one day, he said, Reverend Jessica, why don't you try this virtual whatever called Zoom. I said, Zoom? What the heck is Zoom? Zoom golly golly, Zoom golly golly. I'm like, I don't know nothing about no Zoom. So anyway, he convinced us to try Zoom. And so we started having, in order to keep in touch with our district, we would have a Zoom on Monday night for the young adults, and we would bring in different guests from across the country. Then on Tuesday nights, we would do it. This was every week. We would do it for the lay people. And then Thursday nights, we had Zoom for the pastors, and we had different workshops and et cetera, et cetera. We had to make the pivot in order to stay in touch with our people. Then we started having 6 a.m. prayer calls every morning. We were doing it on just Mondays, but we wanted the people to know that we were there for them. And so we started having prayer calls every morning. Then it was time to go into these annual conferences. And I'm telling you, First Lady Crisette, trying to plan an annual conference where we have all these different moving parts, and we did not know the technology. And when I tell you that I don't want to say too much. Anyway, we got the wrong person doing the technology. And so it was just awful. But we made the pivot, and we got the right team, and we had to make the adjustment and et cetera. And so we went through our series of annual conferences, all of them virtual. This is totally new to us. We're in our 70s. We used to be in church. And here we are sitting up in our living room, set up with these lights and this monitor and et cetera. And my husband would be sitting up there with his clergy collar on and house shoes with no socks.
And Reverend Jessica, I'm so glad that you mentioned, you didn't know about the platform, and I think it's so important that we talk about the fact that, in the excerpt that you read from the book, it talked about, you could be living your best life and everything is coming up roses, and one phone call, 1 hour can change your entire life. But I think what I hear you saying that I think is so powerful and impactful is that sometimes when you have to change on a dime. You don't have 3 years to shift.
Absolutely.
You got to do it immediately, but you have to have an open mind. So many people, are closed-minded, or it's not necessarily, let me take it back. It's not necessarily that they're closed-minded. It's so easy to have the fear of, I can't understand the new. So talk about your transition to understanding. You like, Zoom, what's Zoom? And I always laugh and say, if only Aretha Franklin were alive to see that we're Zoom, she would sing that song, Who's Zooming Who? And now, it has taken on a totally different meaning. And so, everybody, had to do some in some shape or form, some kind of transition. So, going from always being in service, knowing how to manage that, knowing what it took to put it all together, to really being a fish out of water, but having the mentality of, I got to learn this technology. I don't necessarily have to be the one doing it, but I know I got to do something.
Right,
if we're going to keep the program going.
Right. And you know what, First Lady, we were smart enough to surround ourselves with those who knew how to do it. And we were blessed to have younger people in the district who understood the technology. And they said my job was to oversee. I was pretty much, they called me the CPO, the Chief Program Officer. And so while I did not know all of any of the nuances of the technology, I have the gift of administration. And I understood that it took planning to implement all of the moving parts of it. So, you have to have a willingness to make the adjustment. I always say that when my husband became the bishop and I was going through so many changes from leaving Oak Grove and moving into this position. And I had gone to talk to Bishop Thomas, and I was just going on and on and on about how hard it was. And I didn't know, he looked at me after I got finished carrying on forever and simply said, daughter, you either make the adjustment or you lose your mind. And that has stayed with me. In life, things happen. And you have to learn to make do I miss the way church was? I promise you, I do. But did I miss serving the way in which we had? Yes, I did. But this was our very last year. Well, we thought it was, because we ended up actually having to serve another whole year. We were to retire in July of 2020. But because of the pandemic, our general conference had to be postponed, which meant this major retirement, the service that we were going to have after 40 some years of serving, it was gone. And so we had to serve another year, and that whole year is time for.
We gotta take a break, and when we come back, we have a caller, and we're gonna go to our caller in just a few minutes. You're listening to We Got Issues on 910 AM, the Superstation. We'll be right back after this break. All right, we are back. You're listening to We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. I'm your host, Crisette Ellis, and I am here with my mentor, Reverend Dr. Jessica Kendall Ingram, and we are talking about spiritual empowerment, and we're talking about being able to change. And so I'm going to have her talk a little bit in just a few minutes about what she is doing now with the Ingram experience. So excited about this new chapter in her life. But we have a caller. Bridget, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Bridget.
Colin, we got issues.
Do you have a comment or question for Reverend Jessica? Yeah, first let me say to Reverend Jessica, thank you for the work that you and your husband have done and for the many years that you served. And I did hear you when you said he was never sick until he was serving as a bishop, and so we do appreciate that. But my question, I would love you to speak to the difficulties you may have encountered with keeping spirituality in the message during the Zoom, especially for our younger believers.
On keeping spirituality as a focus.
Yeah, during Zoom, when we were Zooming, because like you said earlier, we were Zooming with socks on, and it's just different.
Well, okay. Well, like I was sharing with you, my husband and I were overseeing over 400 pastors and thousands of people, etc. So what we decided to do was to have the morning prayer calls every morning, Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. Sometimes my husband would bring the message, sometimes I would. That was an opportunity for us to help keep people spiritually together. But also, whenever we had our annual conferences, there were always workshops that I taught on spirituality, which is my passion. And we put out newsletters with nuggets of information. And so we tried to be as intentional as possible to not get so caught up in the technology that we forgot about our spiritual walk.
Amen. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Bridget, for calling. I appreciate you. Thank you. That's a great answer, Reverend Jessica. Yeah, and I totally get it. Sometimes you can get caught up in the technology where, it's even though we know that it's a blessing that we have the technology and we've been able to use it to stay connected. I'm like you when it comes to there's still nothing like being together physically, together in one place where you're able to praise God and come together. I mean, there is something special about community and just being there together. And so we've had to make it work. So I'm excited. I want you to tell everybody about the Ingram experience, and then tell them how they can, find out more and become a part of it.
So when we retired in July of 2021, I had said prior to retirement that I wanted to be able to live out my passion, which is really spiritual formation. I'm a trained spiritual director. I studied it back in the late 80s. And it has been what I love to do. And so once I retired, after I went through a period of emotional trauma, because I'm telling you, it's traumatic to have been engaged in ministry for over 40 something years. And then all of a sudden, all of that is gone. But I knew that I still had more to offer. And so God placed it in my spirit and gave me the concept of the Ingram difference, the Spiritual Renewal Center. And so what I provide for persons, opportunities to really focus in on your spiritual growth. So every Friday morning, we have a prayer call, which I lead. I give a meditation. We have different subject matters, and we go into prayer. And God has blessed me in doing that. I hadn't planned to do it, but these young people that I'm working with, I'm telling you, with the Ingram difference, I know that it is of God, because I have nothing but young women under the age of 45 that are leading me through this. and all this technology. I'm like, I don't know what y'all talking about, but if this is what I need to do, LinkedIn and all this stuff, I'm doing it. Okay. So we're offering the prayer call. I also am available for individual spiritual direction. You may need a therapist or you may need a coach, but you also need a spiritual director, a person who's trained in listening and who can help you navigate your relationship with God. And then I'm doing what is called the living room, dining room experience. My first one is coming up in a couple of weeks. That's why I'm having a small group of 8 women from the Detroit metro area to come to my home. They'll have a meal prepared by a chef. We will engage in focused discussion and just can't you just see it and just have it. And just have a good time. So I am excited. I'm talking fast because I know our time is almost up. I made the pivot, First Lady, from 44 years of being involved in the local church and then at the Episcopal level. And now God has given me the opportunity to do what has been my passion, and I can do it without distraction. I have no denominational responsibilities, except look at your neighbor and say free. Hallelujah. Okay. Let me say
she is free. Reverend Jessica, before we leave, we have another caller, and I know she wants to say something. Dana is on the line. Dana, are you there?
Dana.
Is that your Dana?
Praise the Lord, Reverend Jessica. How are you? Oh, goodness. It's Dana from Greater Grace. Yes, ma'am, you know it is. I could not miss my opportunity to tell you how much we love you. Oh, my God. You are a powerful woman of God. The show has been amazing. And we miss you, Reverend Jessica. Well, listen, I miss you all. And one of the things that bothered me about this pandemic, I was so looking forward to coming back to Detroit and coming to there's no boot camp anymore. Y'all are going to do something. But none of that is taking place. But we're coming out of this, and I'm coming to Greater Grace. And I hope I remember how to cut a step. It's been a long time since I've danced. Well, that's okay. You know, we always have a place for Reverend Jessica at Greater Grace. Even though we're not this Sunday. I think we're this Sunday. Dana, it's good to hear your voice. Good to hear your voice. Ma'am, I love you. I can't wait to hear you. So, yeah, we're looking forward to your news, and we're excited about that. So, we too will tap in and have that time with you. I'm just so grateful that God, that you retired, and now you can dedicate some time to us. Thank you so much. Reverend Jessica,
they can find you. How can they find you?
And look, I got a website at 74. I got a website. It's www.ingramdifference.com. Please go and visit it. It will just make you feel closer to God just looking at it. www.ingramdifference.com. And if you're in the Detroit area and you want to be a part of the living dining room experience, go to my website and register. I'd love to have you in my home. Thank you, First Lady Crisette. This has been a wonderful experience. I feel good. I feel like James Brown.
You feel good. Absolutely. Well, this has been so good. We got to have you back because I know that the Ingram experience is going to bless so many people. So we absolutely want you guys to go to her website, www.theingramdifference.com. And you know, on that website you'll be able to see how you can connect and how you can be blessed by everything that Reverend Jessica has going on. Well, you guys, I can't believe we've made it through another We Got Issue. I held it down for my girl.
You held it down all by yourself.
All by myself. But I'm excited again that you took the time to be with us. The Force of Friendship, We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. The Superstation. We will be here tomorrow, Friday, from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you then. Thank you so much, Reverend Jessica. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.